I haven't seen my parents for a year and a half now.
Sometimes now I want to fake an American accent just so that people understand.
In that moment I was like, I really don't know if I belong here.
So my mother tongue is Arabic. I would have like weird moments where I would directly translate things from Arabic and it would just sound very awkward.
I definitely know more about what I'm talking about in Chinese and I'm more succinct. It's easier to be funny and humorous when I'm speaking in Chinese.
Sometimes when I get very emotional, French will come or Kachi will come to me, but that's not something I can say out loud, and so there's almost like a translation process that has to occur.
It's just hard to be able to speak English fluently to begin with, and then understanding the culture part is just another whole level.
I feel like speaking Arabic in a public setting, I don't, like my volume goes down automatically. Like not on campus, but in Boston. If it were like a European language, people could be shouting across the room and it would be fine. But if I'm shouting to my friend across the room in Arabic, I need to be like, I feel like people will just look at me and I will just like remember that I'm in the US.
I think that's definitely the most hard part of like not having anyone to look after you.
Goodbyes are hard, and I always cry a little bit, like I tear up even though I don't mean to. In general, in times of adversity is when I miss my family the most, and that sucks because I think if they lived somewhere in the US, they would just make a trip here to like see me.
A lot of our classrooms are built around exploring things in American culture. When it comes to the minority of international students in the classroom, those are concepts that are going to generally go over our head. Even as a senior, I still struggle.
The first few weeks of calc were mostly my transition period where I was trying to get used to just the lingo and the way I guess kids have been studying math in this country, which is very different.
They all knew what they were doing. They all knew like some very complicated math words, which I actually knew as well, just not in English terms.
There were so many times when I felt like, I just can't talk today. I can't speak English. I was stammering a lot some days. I was very frustrated. It was a very depressing feeling, and it never happens when I'm speaking Chinese.
For some reason, I think I'm more mature when I speak my own language. I think it's just because I can take that command in my own language versus when I'm speaking English.
Yeah, I think in terms of language, the thing that I've struggled with most is kind of the vocabulary around certain topics, especially like gender and sexuality, race. I feel like you can't really make mistakes in terms of vocabulary. People focus so much on the words you use instead of the content, and it just gets lost in like an argument about what you said instead of what you meant.
If you think about language, there is certain power dynamic in it. When you are speaking a language that is not the language that you grew up speaking, you definitely don't speak it as well, and there are slangs and uses of it that you don't know. But people who grew up speaking in it, native speakers, they're supposed to be very good with it. So then the power between you two is now balanced from the moment that you start speaking in this language. And this relation goes into all sort of aspects of the relationship between you two.
I think most of the times that I've been embarrassed about something have either been related to like some popular song or like a movie.
But sometimes when I ask for explanations and they're all like, you don't know this? How can you not know this? And I feel like almost bad for not knowing it when it's normal.
With the idea that they don't know that much about where I come from, they just assume that it's the same as here or not that different. Despite English being my third language, I still speak it with an accent that doesn't make it sound that way, and so people just assume that I'm fully fluent in it, or that it's easy for me to find the words or to express it or to write papers and stuff. That's something that's very different from the experience of a lot of more local students, and yet no one really wants to know about those stories.
I feel like there's this added dimension of being new to this entire country and to this context of discourse and to how people engage with issues, to how people think and talk about things.
If we don't recognize how interconnected we all are from one country to another, from one region to another, then to claim that we are really like educated in the liberal arts and have global cosmopolitan educations is wrong. And so I wish people tried to engage more in those issues.
Although I might think of it in a completely different context and have a very different perspective on it, that doesn't make my statement invalid. It also doesn't make it like really special.
I think for me, one thing that really helped my transition to Wellesley was Slater. It's really nice to remind yourself that there's so many others like you.
Being able to share that perspective is really cool, and then also to be able to learn a lot about how things work here and to kind of reflect on what that means when I take it home, or whether those same issues exist at home in the same way, and to be able to reflect on that.